Vietnam! Good morning and welcome to the Magic Forest VN. That's our official name, the Magic Forest VN for Vietnam. Which was kind of sounding a bit weird when I didn't live in Vietnam. Anyway, now we are the Magic Forest VN. Because I'm in Vietnam and Henry's in Vietnam. And it's just so pleased to get here, you know. It's been a long journey to get to this point. And it's been mad. Since finishing a regular job, I just couldn't ever even imagine how much work I would be doing. But it's good. It's good. Like if you work for yourself, you don't even think about it. You just do what needs to be done. Like you can't just be like, oh well. I guess if you're doing overtime for somebody else, it's like, you know, then you might have reason to complain. But I mean, what am I gonna do? Give myself a bonus? But yeah, I give myself a bonus. When we arrived, actually, I'll start at the beginning. It was, you know, getting Henry through, and you know, there's always that tiny anxiety that you haven't got the right paperwork or you haven't done the right thing. And so we arrived at the Vietnam there, the baggage collection area, and the carousel. And I went over, there's an office that says quarantine and live animals, so I was like, oh, that must be where I need to go. But the office was all shut. And then there is like a list of numbers of places to phone. And you know, I tried, there was numbers crossed out and numbers written down, and I tried all the numbers on the sheet and nobody answered the phone, and I was like, shit, where's Henry? And then so I thought, well, I'll go back and see if my bags have come out. Got my bags, and then just looked across and I saw Henry just in the corner, like alone, in his box obviously, just you know, just literally abandoned in the corner of the concourse. It was like, Henry! And then as soon as I shouted Henry, I saw the case just starting to shake dramatically because it's on wheels. And then so I went and collected him, and then I went back and then thought, right, I've still got to get hold of the quarantine people to get there, you know. But right next to the quarantine people is the customs. I could just see, you know, the gateway to freedom in front of me, and the customs guy was talking to someone else, so I was like, just go for it. I just wheeled him through, and like I had so much stuff that, you know, I could only just do it. I had to, like, as I had a big rucksack, a big bag. Oh no, I had a trolley actually. I had a trolley, but then obviously I had Henry, so I had a big trolley with 3-4 bags on it, and then I had Henry, and because Henry was on wheels, I took my belt off and attached the belt to his trolley so I could sort of push him and push my trolley with the other hand. And the guy from customs, he was like, oh, just wait a minute, and he was like, have you been through quarantine? And I was like, yeah, I've got all the papers. Because I did have some papers, the wrong papers. And he was like, where are you from, England? And I'm saying, yes. But I've come from Taiwan. And he was like, oh, all right, mate, go on then. And he said it in a very, very English accent. So I knew he had studied in England or been, you know, spent some good time in England. And he kind of, I looked like someone who had had an ordeal, been through an ordeal with just getting to there, which is true. And so, yeah, just pushed Henry through. So Henry might be an illegal immigrant. But he might be an illegal immigrant, or he might be the only person that's allowed to stay indefinitely out of the 4. We've done so much walking because some of the taxis are weird with dogs. A lot of people are scared of dogs or big dogs in Hanoi, um, and so you sometimes get unwelcomed. And there's this case. That suitcase is just full of fairies. I thought, right, I'll put all my fairies and all my tools in one suitcase, and then I put all my fairies in, and there was no room for any tools. So then that bag is full of tools, and then a bag full of clothes, and a Henry, and that's pretty much all I require. Yeah, tools, fairies, tools, dogs, and clothes. I do need clothes. But I've had to kind of get it all out. Sorry, my room's a bit of a mess. It's not bad though. I've got a little workstation. It's got a nice bath. It's all right, and you know. But it's just too busy. You know, you just go outside and it's just, just so many motorbikes and traffic. But that is Hanoi. You know, I do love Hanoi because it is got such a good energy, and life happens on the streets in Hanoi. You know, there's so many beautiful little cafes and beautiful little bars and beautiful little restaurants, and so everything happens at kind of street level because the chairs are so small as well. So you're sitting on a primary school chair, eating some delicious food, but yeah, the pollution can be a bit overwhelming because the taxis don't really like Henry much. I just thought, well, we'll walk everywhere. It's fine. Because it's not that big a city. You can walk everywhere, as we've proven. So the first 2 days, I had my phone on aeroplane mode, and so then I just kind of loved having my phone on aeroplane mode. Well, I haven't actually had a holiday or a day off work for I can't even remember when. So I did decide to have a holiday for the weekend and then get to work on Monday. Which is nice, just hanging out and eating good food and having massages and just enjoying life with Henry. And he's been such a good boy. He's never lived in a place where he needs a lead. He can always just run around where we lived in Taiwan, all the places. And so he hasn't done that much lead training, whereas George in Korea, he's done lead training every day. Even though he is a slow learner. And but he has done some lead training, and he kind of gets it, but then chooses to ignore it. But now he's in this busy city. It's always like all his life he's been training to be good on the lead for this moment, and he's just been absolutely waiting at the traffic. And you know, I'm even confident that, you know, if he does the lead training really well, that he could actually walk by my side and by my leg and stop when I say stop, without being naughty. But time will tell. But hopefully I'll be out of this city before then. What else? Went to see my best mate Yo on the first day we arrived, which was Saturday, I guess. And Yo, he's a beautiful man, really lovely guy, and probably my best mate here. And so we just sat on his balcony all afternoon, and really nice, and just chatted and caught up and talked about philosophy. And it's like, we should have, you know, because we don't have a plan. And like, we should have just planned to do nothing and just talk shit and, you know, sit on a balcony. That's what we like doing anyway. So that was nice. And then, yeah, Sunday just went to the park, which was nice, and walked about and got some nice food. And then Monday was a bit of a negative day, really, because I just woke up, thought I'd just go to the park, and then I thought I'm going to look for a nice quiet place to have a Zoom, because I have had a Zoom with my parents. And finding a quiet place in Hanoi is just not a thing. It's just walking for maybe 2 hours looking for a place that was quiet, and there wasn't. And in the end, we just came home. And some places have little quiet courtyards, but they're kind of the fancy places that don't allow dogs in. So the nice, and all the food is good. You can't go wrong. all the sort of street food places, the cheap places, are really loud, and all the nice places are quiet, but you don't let dogs. So yeah, there's nowhere quiet. And then I sort of came back home to do the Zoom, kind of feeling like, that Hanoi had kicked my ass somewhat. And then yesterday, because I'm only in this place till Friday, because it was just get a place and then you can look around for a week. And then yesterday I went to visit this place, and I'd known about it for about 8 months. When we first started looking, it came up, and I just always had this good feeling about it. And when the person was really sweet, they said originally on the Airbnb the price was $400, and now we're at $200, and now they're like, well, we can renegotiate, for a month. And so when they sent me the address, I was like, oh, it's quite far outside town. And then I'm like, well, I haven't got a taxi service because Grab doesn't Grab thinks I'm still in Malaysia because that's the last time I used it. But that's sorted now because I had to phone them up. And so, I was just walking. You walk out across the bridge and out of the city and get to the place. And actually, walking is such a beautiful thing to do when you're getting to know a place, even though the air is quite polluted because you're always walking by a busy road. As we was walking, it just kind of got quiet, and it was about maybe an hour and a half walk, but we probably did it in two hours, and just got quieter and quieter and quieter. It's like, oh, this. I feel like I'm going in the right direction to find somewhere where it is actually bearable to live in Hanoi, or quiet enough. It's the noise. And just got there, and it was just this oasis garden full of beautiful people singing, and there was like art workspace, and really cute little room built of scaffolding and designed by the architect that owns the place, who's just so sweet, which is what I want to do. Nice, functional, strong treehouse type places. The room is tiny, but you've got all this space to work, and there's kitchen, and there's a little coffee shop that they have there as well. Just such a beautiful energy. I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be at, So I thought, well, I want to look at maybe look at some other places as well. I've got one place to look at. And then make a decision by the end of the week. But I don't think there's much decision to be made because, I guess it's just it's all decisions seem to be financial decisions now. When you're not, I am earning from ferries, but not enough, and survival is key. To success, and because you have to be patient to find the right place for the magic forest. I think that's true, and but also it's dependent on meeting the right people and having the right connections, and causing a bit of a scene in the Hanoi art world. And so that's just the place to do it, and that's why I'm in Hanoi, is to just make connections and meet people, and not to get to know me, but to get to know fairies. Some people say that why Vietnam? Why you choose Vietnam? And I often say, well, the story of Vietnam, the mythology, the legend, if you like, is the story of O Kur and Long Quam, who she was a mountain fairy, and he was a dragon of the water, dragon of the ocean prince, and she loved them. They loved each other. They were right for each other. They were both magical in their own way, and he missed the ocean and she missed the mountains, so they couldn't decide on a place to live. Um, and so they separated, but before they separated, they had 100 children, and she kept 50 children in the mountains, and he took 50 children back to the sea. And these 100 children are the ancestors of all the people in Vietnam. And that is why, before the idea of communism, that actually that notion of everybody being your brother and helping everybody out is just part of the original culture, and communism kind of fits onto it very, very nicely, because it is a nice form of communism here. And so, Vietnam people are actually the direct descendants of a mountain fairy called O Cơ. So, that's why Vietnam, because they're actually descendants of fairies. And they're just beautiful people. Perhaps that's why they are so beautiful. What else? That's quite a long video, I guess, and there was a lot to get through. But one thing that I know as well is that people often say to me, "Are you a mountain person or a sea person?" And I was born by the sea, so I always have a piece of my heart by the sea. But then when I'm in the mountains, I prefer the mountains, and then actually think, why do people always ask us about the mountains and the sea? Because, give me a valley any day of the week. I just love a valley, And so if people ask me, are you a mountains person or sea person? I say a valley person. And that is the focus of our search to find the magic forest is going to be somewhere in a valley. Anyway, it's lovely to see you all. I've been looking forward to seeing you guys, actually. Facebook can be a bit of a wild place at the moment, but YouTube, I can just, you're my friends. So it's nice to talk to you like a friend. Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you, and I shall see you in the Magic Forest. The end.